My name is Spencer. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm a drummer, and this is how to set up EQ in Logic Pro 10. We're going to set it up based on the standard parameters that we learned in the lesson this week, with the same format as a large format mixing board. So in Logic Pro 10, we use the X button to show the mixer and to hide the mixer when we're working with our tracks. So to pull up the EQ, we show the mixer with X. We can individual channel strips that we can EQ, and then we've got our master output. I'm going to set up the default settings on an individual channel strip. So we can either click this EQ thumbnail, or we can click where it is in the plugins and we can set it up that way. Either way, it's going to bring up the default EQ settings, and we can set these up here and save the parameters that we learned in the lesson this week as our defaults. So Logic Pro 10 gives us a number of tools. They're not labeled, but they are the tools that we learned in the lesson this week. We have a high pass filter that we can turn on by clicking this icon. We have a low shelving filter here. We have several parametric EQs that we can turn on in different frequency bands. And we have a high shelving filter here. Logic Pro 10 also gives us one more additional parameter, which is a low pass filter, which can be turned on and manipulated here. So there's different ways that we can set these up. We can, as we turn them on, we can click these little colored dots and move them with our mouse, or we can just click here and type in the parameters. So I'm going to set up the high pass filter. In the lesson this week, the high pass filter was set at 75 Hertz and 18 decibels per octave. So to set the cutoff point to 75 Hertz, I'm going to click there. Now we have our cutoff point set at 75 Hertz, and I'm going to change our attenuation to 18 decibels per octave. Now we can turn this high pass filter off and on as needed by just clicking this little icon. Next, I'm going to set up the low shelving filter. The low shelving filter currently is set to start at 82 Hertz. Let's change that to start it at 80 Hertz. And now the cutoff point for our low shelving filter is at 80 Hertz. And we can change the decibels and the gain accordingly, again by dragging or by just typing in the parameters here. We have a low, mid, high mid, and high parametric EQs here. They're currently set to 0 on the gain. If we want to turn on each of the parametric EQs, we just click their little icon and we can move it accordingly. We can just move it around to whatever range we like. We could also adjust the bandwidth or the Q by clicking on these borders here and dragging them in and out. Finally, we can set up our high shelving filter here. You can see our high shelving filter is currently set up at a cutoff point of 7500 Hertz or 7.5 kilohertz. So we're going to click in there and type 12,000 kilohertz or 12,000 Hertz as we learned in the lesson. And we're going to set the gain right now to 0. But again, we can change the gain by dragging it up and down or typing it right into there. Once we've set that, all of our default settings, we save this as a default so that we can pull it up whenever we want. We can also name it and pull it up and open those settings whenever we want. But for right now, we're just going to save that as default. It's going to ask if we want to replace the default. We say yes. And now, no matter what other EQs we decide to pull up, what other EQ settings we decide to pull up, if we want to go back to the default, we can just click Recall Default from that drop-down menu, and all of our default settings have been saved.